music should you not play around a balloon? Pop music! Most coyotes are illiterate. Oh, and have you heard the joke about the Cheetos? It's kind of cheesy. Today we're going to be making a dad jokes cake, and we're going to dedicate it to the punniest guy I know, my husband Scott. Hi friends, my name is Sherry Ray, and this is Every Cake Tells a Story, where we learn how to decorate together and love others through cake art. Because as we go along, I'll share the stories about the individual this cake was dedicated to. And today, it's Scott. Scott is the most hilarious man I know, and he is a regular dad jokester. Recently, these dad jokes have increased because we got a boogie board. Every weekday morning, Scott writes a joke on our boogie board, and he leaves it on the island for the rest of the family to see and read and giggle about later. So I'm gonna take some of his favorite dad jokes and incorporate them into this cake. On top of being the most hilarious person I know, he is also my biggest supporter. So stick around to the end of the video because I have an amazing story that just elevates his support to the highest level. So let's go spread some love like ice.
I'll start by sprinkling some powdered sugar on my surface and then roll out some black fondant. Then I'll trace around the real deal to make the base of my imitation. I did the same thing for the white because there's a white cover on top of the base, but it's inset, so after that I'll freehand it a bit to trim it down. I got it! Time for some glue now. Whenever I have high contrasting colors, I prefer to use shortening to glue them together. Other options are runny and the colors tend to bleed a bit. It's not nearly as secure as some of the other edible glues I use. Think of it more like a post-it note. The boogie board has a hole in 2 of its corners, so I'll go through both layers with a number 12 tip, then smooth out the white layer so it looks like the official boogie board. Time for the screen! I put a piece of paper over the actual boogie board and trace the screen size. Now I have a template ready to go to size out my fondant screen. Glue that on and straighten it out. It still needs that pretty silver erase button. I'm gonna make it out of white for now though, and I'll come back to it later. Let's add some pizzazz. I've already cut some circles using my 3, 5, 7, and 12 tips. I'll just lay them in place to make sure I have the positioning correct. Then I'll glue them on, or maybe I should say post-it note them on. These pieces are so tiny, so first I'll put some shortening on my finger, and then I can pick them up easily. Once I finish, I'll pop it into my oven with the light on. The tiny amount of heat the light emits will be enough to speed up the drying process while I work on other elements of the cake. I've practiced writing the logo on paper with my edible marker. Now it's time to put it on the fondant. Uh-oh, that's a little messed up. No problem. With a swipe of water in my finger, it's as good as new. Let's try that again. There we go. Add the little squiggle. We get to add the joke now. I'll use white Americolor gel mixed with some vodka so the moisture will evaporate. I think this joke is perfect for the top of the cake. It kind of introduces the whole theme of the cake. Dad jokes. A sheep, a drum, and a snake fall off a cliff. Badumps. Perfect. The last step is to finish up that erase button. A dear friend gave me this edible spray paint. I sprayed it into my paint palette, and I'll paint it on. The final step is to go over the rim with black, just like the real boogie board. By the way, you should add your favorite dad joke to the comment section below. I'd love to see it show up on the boogie board. And here they are, side by side. I think it turned out great. Let's move on to the next step, those interactive jokes. I can't wait to play with this wafer paper. It's my first time. I finally got my hands on some and the perfect project for it. But it won't be flexible enough just yet. To make it more pliable, I followed a great step-by-step tutorial by Kara Bunting. I've included the link in the eye above, so you can click on that for further instructions. I'll take this mixture and paint it on the smooth side of my wafer paper. Once it dries, we get to start adding some pops of color. I want it to have a watercolor splash look, so I have a variety of petal dusts ready, and I'll just drop them onto the paper sporadically. And then we'll go over it in circles with a dry paintbrush, kind of embedding the color into the paper. When I'm done, I'll mark out some grid lines with an edible marker, and then cut it so I have smaller sheets to write the jokes on. Let's skip ahead to the completion of those steps, because I can't wait for you to get to know Scott. While I introduce him, I'll be writing the jokes on those smaller sheets.
Scott has always been the funniest man I know. And I remember when we first met, just how much he would crack me up. I'd be laughing hysterically. About 8 years ago, he created email accounts for our children for the sole purpose of sending them a daily email with Garfield and Family Circus. Over the years, he's increased the number of comics jokes included in those emails, but they still get a daily email from their dad. It's sweet. I mentioned how he leaves us a Boogie Board joke every day. I recently found out that he selects these jokes on the weekend, has a list of them so that he's ready to go every single day with our joke. Sometimes he'll tell us joke after joke after joke, and needless to say, we're having a ton of fun together. And I believe Scott's sense of humor and his lightheartedness has set the tone for our family, for our household. It's one of the reasons we have a more carefree house. I am so thankful for his sense of humor. It has been such a blessing. I would be missing a major element to Scott if I didn't share how supportive he is, and most recently, how supportive he's been for this channel. But let me give you a little background information on the birth of this channel. I have been homeschooling for the past 12 years. It's been my full-time job. I love it. But pretty soon I'm gonna be fired because I only have 4 more years left. And I've been watching that end drawing near going, what am I gonna do after this? It's a job I love, but it's gonna end soon. I love decorating cakes, but there's a lot of obstacles to that. Where we live, you can't sell food products that you've made in your home kitchen. You have to go rent a commercial kitchen. Then I can't just go work for most bakeries because I have celiac disease and I don't want to be sick all the time. So cake decorating looked like it wasn't an option. And then I had the idea for this channel. I got so excited, but I was a little bit nervous to tell Scott because it's a crazy, outlandish, outside the box idea. I tentatively told him. He got behind the idea 100%. And he immediately found me an editing software I can use. And then he watched me working on a project and watched my computer start hiccuping and glitching and twerking, and my computer wasn't twerking. My computer was hiccuping and glitching. So he turned around and he bought me a new machine that would be powerful enough to go through the heavy work I was gonna put it through. He has always been my biggest supporter and my biggest cheerleader. But remember I told you there was one story that would elevate this to the highest level? I still have that for you, but you're gonna have to wait till we get to the end, because right now we're gonna go back and finish that cake. Scott knows this is a dad jokes cake, but he does not know that there will be a joke in every single bite, an explosion in his mouth, because I'm gonna take some candy melts, spread it out on my parchment paper, and then sprinkle some pop rocks over the top of it. Joke's on him! Explosion in every bite. Ooh. Again, one just popped and flew across the room.
Okay, let's get back to business. I saw one of my favorite cake decorators, Joshua John Russell, do this and thought it was hilarious. And it's perfect for this dad jokes cake. Check out his channel, You've Been Deserted. The link is in the description box. As you can tell, I was so excited about this, but the joke ended up being on me. Twice. First, you know that saying, patience is a virtue? Well, don't put these in the freezer to try and speed it up. You know, that whole condensation thing. I had Pop Rocks flying everywhere. Joke's on me! Oh right, twice. I have a joke that will explain it best. What's the difference between a good joke and a bad joke? Timing. We didn't eat the cake right away. 2 days later, when we got to it, the Pop Rocks had pretty well popped away inside the cake. Oh well, it cracked me up in anticipation. And I did sprinkle Pop Rocks underneath Scott's piece the second time I served him. Once the candy was ready, I simply placed the candy on top of the icing in between the layers of my cake. There's a link in the description box for the step-by-step directions to prepare your cake for decorating. I want it to look like it's been assembled with wood planks and screws, so I'll add wooden planks for the bottom border. I just got this wood grain impression mat, so I'll texture it up with that. Then I'll cut them in strips and glue them on. At this point, I'm going to jump ahead. I've started to add the jokes already. Wafer paper can start to disintegrate, so I needed to carefully choose the liquid I used to glue it to the cake. Corn syrup did the trick. As I go, I'll add the wood plank that is supposedly securing the joke to the cake. I made some flathead screws with a number 12 tip, my knife, and silver petal dust because it's all about the finer details. Finally, I needed to work on the base for the boogie board. But of course, I've got to add me some texture. Then, trim the bottom so it's flat, and angle the top cut so it'll support the boogie board upright. I realized if this were really on display, it would have a bottom support too. So I added a wood plank and screwed that in at the base of the boogie board. We're all done! Cake a la dad jokes.
There we have it, the ultimate dad jokes cake along with Scott's boogie board joke. Here's the last story that brings Scott's support to the ultimate level. I see my husband as a jack of all trades and in fact a master of all. He was basically apprenticed by an amazing man named Jaime. It gave him the skills to be able to do the job that he has now. It's a job he loves and wouldn't trade. However, when he went to university, he went as a video major. When we got married and started having children, all those entry-level jobs did not provide enough income to support a growing family. So he laid those dreams and aspirations to the side and continued in the role that he had. I would one day love to be able to work on this channel together. I don't know what's gonna happen in the next 4 years, but I know I have Scott's support as I work my way out of one job, homeschooling, and hopefully into a new job. Every cake tells a story. If this story rings true for you or someone you love, turn around and dedicate it to them because we're all about loving others here. And I'd love to see you again. Subscribe below. Bye, friends.